Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
It's MMA Renegade episode 6. Elijah,
Woo-hoo.
Elijah, man,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Mm,
I am so tired.
bruh.
If you don't see this, is not my normal setup. I'm actually in my bed right now because didn't the fight card go off like at 1 o'clock? Well, something
Fight
close to
card
that,
did
right?
go off at 1 o'clock.
Right, and then I watched a little bit of the press post conference afterwards. I wanted to see what Dana was going to say and what Oliver was going to call out Dustin Poirier or Conor McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I couldn't sleep after that. I couldn't sleep, so.
It was a lot. It was a lot. I mean, last night did go late.
Yeah.
Last night to early morning. It definitely went late. But listen, man, you gotta get some rest out here. You gotta
Yeah.
don't be killing yourself.
Yeah. Most likely after we do this show, I'm taking a
Knocking
quick
down.
quick nap. And then I'm actually going to edit the interview that I did yesterday before the fight last night.
Interview, you say?
Interview.
Interview with who? Tyrese, can you please give the viewers a name?
For sure, for sure. I had the pleasure of interviewing Sean Felton Jr. He's going to be fighting at Bellator 259 this weekend, May
Nice,
20,
nice,
May
nice.
21st, May 21st, for Showtime. Making his Bellator debut against Aviv Ghazali, somebody that Bellator is pushing heavily as the jiu-jitsu ace. And he's going to go in there and try to, stop. I don't want to say stop the hype, but shock the world and, make a name for himself. So definitely
Okay.
go for that.
Dope. So that'll be great. The edits are on the way. Video should be up sometime this week. Sounds like it's
Mhm.
looking promising there, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good interview. It was a great interview,
Mhm.
actually. And yeah, can't wait for you got to hear it.
Nice.
Elijah, how you doing?
Well, I'm good, man. Finals. I'm in finals.
Mhm.
Next Saturday is my last final. I have one Thursday, and you remember we always do this. I always have a final on my birthday.
Right.
So Thursday I have a final. I'm gonna get rid of that super early in the morning. And then Saturday I have my last final for a stats class, and then I'm free for the summer.
Right,
The
right.
summer. I'm not taking any more classes this summer. I am
Now,
going to relax.
are you taking any classes in the fall though?
Probably not.
Okay, so this is this this
Probably
this
not.
is it.
This is it.
Okay,
This is it. Yeah, this is
good.
the now we start applying to PA school again. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
All
All part
right,
of the journey. But
all right.
as for today, I bought a new bike and I put it together, and I'm definitely going outside to ride it today. So,
Yeah, I gotta go biking with you. We gotta figure out a
bro,
sometime maybe like June, July. We'll figure out. We'll get time together. We'll go biking.
I'm down.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anywho, let's get back into the reason we love coming on here and yelling at each other, right?
Yep.
Last night was semi-announced by, I believe it was Dana White, right?
Yep.
That the next fight to make for the heavyweight division, the newly crowned heavyweight champion of the world, Francis Ngannou, will be facing Derek Lewis, the Black Beast.
In Houston, he was in Houston.
In Houston. It's funny last night actually, because last night they were in Texas, no?
Yeah, he was in
They were in
Texas.
Texas, and you saw a couple of Texas native, and one of the very last ones being Derek Lewis. And I was like, oh, they're definitely going to have something hyped up tonight. I was like, there's no way they don't have him in the crowd, and then just kind of have that going on. So,
Right.
yeah. How do you feel about that? We've talked about the heavyweight scene and what we wanted, but how do you feel about that fight kind of coming to fruition next?
All right, let's talk about the Derek Lewis and I think the bigger story out of this is John Jones, right?
Yeah.
But let's focus on Derek Lewis. So my initial thought is, we talked about it in the past that if Francis Ngannou is really on his road to redemption, that he needed to beat Derek Lewis. Like that was the guy that he lost to. That was the guy he probably had his most uneventful fight against. That made him
Yeah,
look
his
more
worst showing.
human. Yeah,
Yeah, the worst showing in his MMA career, probably.
yeah, made him look more human than the Stipe Miocic fight.
Mm-hmm.
And Derek Lewis, he's been active. He's been fighting ever since his loss to who was it? I think it's Junior Dos Santos.
Mm-hmm.
That was his last loss. He's been fighting him back and climbed back into top contention. So Derek Lewis deserves it. Francis Ngannou, he needs to redeem himself from that fight. So the fight makes a whole lot of sense. But I just cannot think. How do you not do John Jones?
It's maybe not how do you not. It's how do you get both sides to agree is the bigger issue there, right? That's the biggest thing. How do you get John Jones' needs met with UFC saying our needs need to be met as well as a company? It's just the biggest fight to make is Ngannou. But one of the points you brought up in an earlier live stream podcast, whatever you want to call our great phenomenal UFC show here, our MMA show. You talked about how if you really want to build up this whole African champion and have that and kind of branch out, you would need to keep Ngannou champion as long as possible. And that's one of the things that UFC obviously plans to take in, because realistically, with Jones out, Jones is not an active fighter. While he is training and all that, he's technically not considered an active fighter. He probably still gets tested by USADA. So in theory, he is active, but he hasn't had a fight in almost a year, 2 years now, right?
Almost 2 years. No, almost a year, because he fought Dominic Reyes in February
of 2020.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, a fight in a year, right? So he hasn't fought in a while, which is fine, not much of an issue. But you have a newly crowned champion who beat Stipe, who's arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time, right? Or one of the heavyweights of UFC. And so it's just like, if you want to market that and build your stock up and get out there, reach new people, reach new audiences, and get that money, your best bet is to have Ngannou. But the counter argument to that is, if you want to make money, Jones versus Ngannou is going to sell.
Right.
There's no doubt in my mind that Jones and Ngannou sells better than Lewis versus Ngannou too. There's no doubt.
No, yeah, and for me, like, did you also hear that they wanted to do John Jones versus Stipe?
I'm not upset at that. I had really wished it was when Stipe was champion.
Right. So I think, like, I hope people that watch this show and watch us can notice how we talk and our patterns when we say these things. It's like, take a deeper look at what that whole message is, right? So we're not gonna get you Ngannou. Okay, let's give you Stipe,
former champion, coming on for knockout loss to Francis Ngannou, current champion.
Right. And John Jones is the one that gave up the belt to try to go up a weight class and fight for the title, right? It's not the narrative that's going to be is that it's John Jones ducking fights, right? The true thing to look at is the fact that John Jones wants pay to go up to middle heavyweight. He's been talking about this for a while now. You pay me, I'll go to heavyweight. I'll fight whoever's there, because it's a big box office.
Yeah.
Francis Ngannou is that box office who he's trying to build as a heavyweight. The UFC does not want to come to terms and does not want to give John Jones any more money than his contract requires, which is a shame. But now the UFC's playing, honestly playing chicken to try to force John Jones' hand to come out. I think Dana White said that in his post conference, he believes that John Jones is the GOAT, but if he doesn't want to fight anymore, he doesn't have to fight anymore. Alluding to John Jones is ducking these guys, and that John Jones, trying to push John Jones into retirement talk.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're right. It's something. The narrative goes, well, if he wanted to fight, he'll take the fight, regardless of who it is. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. You've been undefeated in X amount of fights, X amount of title fights. You've had less than, in your entire career, you've had less than what? Maybe you've had less than 6. I want to say 6 regular, fights. I mean, what more do you want from a guy like that? Now, I understand UFC's history with John Jones and things like that, but if I'm being honest with you, he is the greatest athlete to have ever walked in there.
Correct.
And I know that they can live without John Jones. I think that's what they've also realized, and the issue is they're comfortable with that now. Yes. And so they don't have a need to have him come back, right? With guys like Conor kind of getting back actively, you have the Diaz brothers kind of making, you have these names coming back and things like that. Then you have people who are currently making bigger names, like Jorge Masvidal. Even though coming off a knockout loss, he had a phenomenal 2019, I believe. Yes. And then you have Israel Adesanya, who was Fighter of the Year, right? And so you have those guys, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same. You had a guy in Israel who said that he's the one that could be. Oh, Flathead Politics, what's up? Flathead says, "Sorry, I'm late, fellas. Can we hear the background church music from my?" No, my mom went to church today. They had an in-person thing. Sorry, Flathead.
Interesting. How's the? I gotta ask your mom. Maybe one day we can on camera. Like, how is the indoor church thing now? And we're still in a pandemic still. How is that interaction?
We'll see. I think this is like the first time they've actually gone back since instead of dropping stuff up at the church and all. I think there's not a lot of people, but it's just a few like people, and they do mostly everything through Zoom and whatnot. So I don't think it's gonna be a lot of people there. But shouts out to her. But yeah, like just to wrap up the point that I'm trying to get off the tangent, John, like John Joe said, it's fine that they make the Derek Lewis fight. It's fine. But there's only so many heavyweights you can throw at Ngannou before he realizes that none of these guys are going to matter. And the only fight that he needs to take is John Jones.
Elijah, I don't want to just circle back to what you said before we get to the actual UFC 262 talk. It's not that you have Conor and you have the Diaz brothers, because even Nick Diaz is trying to get into a fight, which you go back to my post that I did on Thursday, I go in length about Nick Diaz and everything like that. It's not that it's the Diaz brothers coming back. It's not that Israel Adesanya. It's not they're making stars, what you're saying. It's the fact that when this ESPN deal was made, right, when it was everything was exclusively on ESPN, that took away any of the power from the fighters in terms of like negotiating for pay-per-views, right? Because with the ESPN Plus deal, they're getting a set amount of money regardless of the pay-per-view. So like they could put on a Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns fight with nothing really on the table. They could put a Figueroa versus Perez fight on the card and not really have to worry about the buys, because they're already going to get their money from ESPN. So there's no need to bring in to negotiate with John Jones. No need to go negotiate with Conor McGregor. There's no need to with the Diaz brothers, because they're going to get their money regardless. So
money is guaranteed. That's what I'm saying. They're in a comfortable position now. UFC doesn't have to barter to say things like that.
What's up, Loco?
What up, Loco? How you doing? Yeah, UFC is comfortable now. They got into a position where they themselves don't have to do as much work to get as much money.
Right. So it's unfortunate, bro.
I would still love to see John Jones versus Francis Ngannou.
Let me ask you this: we're not going to see it. I don't think we're going to see it this year. I don't. No. I think Dana White is not going to come to terms with John Jones. You have a big chance of Derek Lewis being Francis Ngannou. So let's be real here. Yeah. I do think Derek Lewis can be Francis Ngannou. So where do you see this John Jones fighting again? If John Jones is not fighting at 205 anymore, and he can't get a fight at heavyweight, where do you see John Jones going from here?
There's no. I don't think John Jones goes to any other organization. I really don't think. If he gets the offer, would have to be so substantial, like a crazy amount of money from Bellator. I don't see John Jones, if it's not UFC. I don't even know if he goes to Bellator to fight, right?
Well, no, because he's under contract. He can't go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, it depends on if he asks for a release and they give him that. It is a lot of things that can happen, right? If we're talking about him no, they're not going to get rid of him. But it's a possibility that you can ask for a release and they release you. Not going to happen because John Jones is a cash cow regardless. Yes. I don't see him. I see him fighting at the end of this year for some reason.
I have low optimism, because we're already looking at Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis in August, maybe. Yeah. Which incidentally, or coincidentally, I believe Tyson Fury and Joshua.
Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, in August, right? So it's interesting that they're trying to plan for August when you have the heavyweight title fight in boxing that same month, which is interesting.
It is what it is. They've always competed. You know how that goes.
So yeah, do you see Francis Ngannou fighting again? Or Derek Lewis fighting again after
I do, because I don't see that fight being quick. I don't see that fight being a long fight, in my opinion. If everyone comes away, if no one's walking in with injuries, and that fight, I don't think that fight goes past 2 to 3 rounds, in my opinion. And so if everyone walked away, if the winner walks away healthy, I can see I can if the winner walks away healthy, like Ngannou starches Derek Lewis, then they're gonna be like, shit, who's next? Realistically, it may not be anyone who you could say is next. I don't see any
Stipe.
matchup. I don't think Stipe is gonna get an immediate title shot.
I think if they
That's the
can't do
thing.
John Jones, if they can't do John Jones,
Wait,
John Jones
hear me
definitely will
out.
come. Yeah.
Hear me out. If they're not going to give Stipe an immediate title shot only because of how it ended, I see them giving him one more fight till he gets back. Right? I just see it that happening that way. Now, a fight, I think either just Stipe or John Jones. Oh, now you say Stipe or John Jones happens at the end of this year. The more likely is Stipe, but I wouldn't rule out John Jones.
Yeah.
Now, if Derek Lewis wins,
you got the trilogy. Well, no, you don't got a trilogy anymore.
no trilogy.
And
It doesn't make
Ngannou
any
lost
sense.
twice. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ngannou lost twice. You don't get that trilogy now. If Derek Lewis wins, then Stipe can come back in. Stipe is probably the next guy after that. That's if you want to say. But if Derek Lewis wins, I don't see the John Jones fighting at heavyweight then.
Yeah, I think John Jones can go to heavyweight. I think he wants to go to heavyweight. I think the problem is that what I mean, like they're not willing to budge
on the money,
and this is probably going to be the last of John Jones's run in the UFC. Because honestly, I think John Jones's career is starting to wind down a little bit.
Yeah, no, he's getting older.
You know what I mean? And the fights that he like the big fights is becoming less and less. So yeah, I just don't know if we see John Jones this year, or maybe not next year either.
Yeah,
maybe not next year either. But Flathead Politics, Loco, I'm glad you guys are here. Good morning to you guys. And now let's get into UFC 262. Elijah, start us off.
So last night I want to say, first off, UFC brought to us another great event. I mean, I want to say UFC has been doing good with stack cards. This card came out of the idea that there is no lightweight champion because Khabib Nurmagomedov decided to retire after his fight against Justin Gaethje. So we knew that we had a vacant lightweight belt. And last night at UFC 262, in the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas, we had Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira versus Iron Mike Chandler for the vacant lightweight belt, with a co-main event of Tony Ferguson. Sorry, not co-main event. Sorry, I don't think it was actually co-main. Oh, actually, it was co-main event. Yeah, co-main event of Tony El Cucuy Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. And I mean, at first we talked about this. This card to us didn't really stick out because it didn't seem like it was being pushed as much. We knew they had exciting matchups. I mean, just to read off some of the people: Matt Schnell versus I forget his name, Antonio Bontarin. Slept on fight. Then you have Shane Burgos. Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza. I mean, that's a great fight alone. Who else can I mention? And again, the co-main event and the main event. So it was great. But if we're gonna start with the co-main event, I want to mention how I originally was like, I'm on the fence with these two guys because we have Tony Ferguson on the downside of his career, and we have Beneil Dariush, who hasn't been able to. He's been on the upside, but him beating Tony brings him to that next level. And after a 3-round affair, Tony did not. He's not able to pull it through, and Beneil Dariush got the unanimous decision. Did you see the fight, Tyreece?
I did see the fight.
Good.
I was typing something in the chat. First, I want to ask you, Elijah, when come fight day, were you excited for this card?
I was. Well, I was out. I was out. I got excited when I finally got home and bought it, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is gonna be good, right?" Like I just know because I re-looked at the matchups. I was like, "Oh, these are some pretty good matchups." You also had even Lando Venata dropping down to 145, which was even more interesting to me. And you had Valentina Shevchenko's sister, Antonina, fighting on this card too. But I was excited more at the beginning of this week. No.
Okay.
It's the day of, yes. Which for me, I don't know if that's a good thing necessarily, because then that doesn't really make me want to watch it all week. You know what I mean? Because then if I'm only getting excited on the day of, I'm like, I'll go to sleep. You know this. I'll go to sleep early and be like, hey, I'm not buying it. Yes, I will. So I don't know. What about you?
Loco, Flathead, let me ask you, what were your excitement? Flathead, I think we spoke a little bit on Thursday through the chat. But Loco, what were your thoughts on day of? Were you excited for this card? Flathead, you can answer that too. Yeah, for me, man, even when the fight card was happening, I felt nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I it's even the Kamaru Usman and Burns fight, which may be on paper is the lesser card, a pay-per-view card this year so far.
Mm-hmm.
So this one did have some good fights on it on the main card. I felt nothing when the fight card happened.
Mm-hmm. I got hyped around the Tony fight, and then I got hyped. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it wasn't. There was something about this, and I think the issue about this card is, and my brother was also saying this, is that some people believe that this is really not the biggest lightweight meetup, right? Because Khabib Nurmagomedov is retired, the most dominant lightweight of all time, possibly, has retired. So now it's a wild, wild west of who's available to fight for the belt. With Poirier, who originally won the interim belt while Khabib was out, he's off fighting Conor. Gaethje doesn't have a fight. Now you have a fight between the number 4, number 5 guy,
number 3, and the number 5, I think.
Number 3, number 5. But regardless, those are not the. I mean, I'm not arguing, but those aren't the top guys of the division, right? So it creates this interesting space where it's like, it's a good fight, but.
Yeah, for me, I said on Thursday when I did on Thursdays you can watch me do a midweek wrap up just of news going on, stuff like that. Get a little bit of extra content for you guys. But for me on Thursday, I said, man, I like even the Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman fight again, which had maybe the less of 2 cards.
I gotta get my charger.
Yeah, go ahead. Even that card had some type of storyline to it, right? So you had little brother versus big brother. You had former teammates turn rivals. You had that kind of aspect to it. This card had nothing. It was riding. You can make an argument. It was riding off of the name of Nate Diaz for a little bit because Nate Diaz coming back to fight Leon Edwards. Look, I'm gonna show him this thing when he comes back. But no, it was riding the name of Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards, which I was excited for, right? And then they do. Nate Diaz gets hurt, and that fight is pushed to next month card. Which again, that fight card didn't need any more big fights, and you just put Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards. It just pushes overboard. And so now you have Michael Chandler versus Charles Oliveira, which doesn't really have a story to it. I mean, it does, but they're not really telling it. They didn't really tell it all that well at the start of the week or leading up to it. Where Charles Oliveira is somebody that's been grinding for years, and Michael Chandler is somebody that just got in off of one fight and now fighting for a title. Like, that's a story you could tell, and a story you could say, okay, you got a person that's been grinding for years, you got this unsung hero versus this guy that is coming off of one win, is now getting a title fight. That's a story that you could have some type of conflict there. They didn't really do that much. They were riding off of this is for the lightweight title. And then the Tony Ferguson fight with Beneil Dariush. No, not to discredit Beneil Dariush. I know you love Beneil Dariush.
He's grown on me ever since he's gotten to the UFC. He's grown on me. I wasn't a fan of him originally, but he's definitely gotten better as a fitter. He's a fresh silky dude, right?
Yeah, yep, I got it right here.
I have big hair. Now I have an afro going on and just sleeping it because I'm too lazy.
But no, yeah, like Beneil Dariush is somebody that is to no fault of his own, maybe is someone that hasn't had that fight yet to make himself a name, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, you bring in Beneil Dariush, who's ranked number 12, to fight the I think he is number 5 now. Tony? Yeah. I think Michael Chandler's number 4 and Oliver number 3, and then Tony Ferguson's 5. So you have them two fighting, and nobody really knows who Beneil Dariush is. All we know is the reaction videos we've seen of him with Daniel Cormier, Joe Rogan, and John Anik together. That was the selling point.
Yeah.
So, like, when you look at this card from like the main event and the co-main event, there was really no story going into it where it's like it got you involved or invested.
No.
If you are a hardcore MMA fan, then you were going to watch this fight regardless. If you were a casual fan or somebody that needed a little bit of help to buy it, a $69.99 pay-per-view,
probably wouldn't have done it.
No, not at all.
No narrative. I mean, it's understandable the fights they put on if you are consistently watching. You're right, but realistically, if you're not doing that, then chances are this wouldn't appeal to you.
Yeah, I what you call it? Like we make this argument all the time is that what is a $69.99 card, right? So if this is a $69.99 card, right? This Chandler versus Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. What is next month? What is next month when you have two title fights? You have Israel Adesanya, who's a star in his own right, and you have Marvin Vettori. You have one of the best flyweight fights we've ever seen in Brandon Moreno versus Dennis Figueiredo, which is flying under the radar on the same card. And then you have the return of Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards on that same card.
I'll say this: there's only because there's significantly more stories to tell on that card, right? You have a guy who Israel Adesanya who split. Oh yeah, Loco said it himself. He said it right. Narrative self-fight: the story between Usman Masvidal and Weili versus Rose. So it's first off, the Usman versus Kamaru, Usman versus Masvidal. That fight was going to sell. And I know some people didn't want that fight, but a lot of people need to understand that was going to be a thing. And I agree with Flathead Politics. I enjoyed the card because I'm a fan. But I can't separate that from being a casual fan anymore. Like now I'm invested into it. So I understand what's going on in each division and who's where they at and what's going on. But if I was a regular rando who just is like, I watch UFC casually if it's on at a bar, I probably wouldn't have paid it as much attention.
Yeah. It's but the impressions on the YouTube, the embedded and stuff like that, it looks good. Looks good. I'm seeing like 70,000, close to 1 million views on like the embedded. So it looks like it's trending well. But I didn't really hear much from this.
I remember when we started talking about embedded started. Embedded was, I think, one of the most brilliant things the UFC ever could have done, which is really the behind the scenes before the fight. I thought that was really impressive to market fights, and I think that works to an extent. But again, it really depends on who's fighting who and what narratives can be pushed out there. That's really it.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if they release pay-per-view numbers, then that it did well. If they don't release pay-per-view numbers, it's safe to assume that it didn't do all that well compared to past fights. Now, Tony Ferguson and Beneil Dariush started to go off track for a second. This fight, I said on the Thursday show, I said I had Tony winning, but if Beneil Dariush is able to control him, to contain him, that cancels all the hype or hope or the wishes of a Khabib versus Tony fight. I said like if that happens, if Beneil Dariush is able to control Tony Ferguson and hold him down and pretty much have his way with them, then I don't think we ever needed to see Khabib versus Tony Ferguson, because I think we know how it would have went down. Yeah,
I'll say this: after he lost, Tony Ferguson thinking about what's next. Yeah, low code. I agree. I think it's closer to 38 now, right? At this point.
Yep.
And I think Tony again always will be one of my top fighters. When he was riding that 11 fight, 12 fight win streak, one of the best times I've ever seen Tony perform. I think it's gotten to a point where after the Charles Oliveira fight, I think they figured out a way to kind of neutralize him, and that's defensive. That's like offensive wrestling. Not defensive, it's offensive wrestling that will get Tony out of the way. That shuts down and negates everything he does. One of the highlights of last night was when Tony almost had a Darce. He sneakily almost had a Darce, but Beneil Dariush tried to stay top heavy and didn't try to roll over when Tony tried to roll him. And that was one of the better positions that Tony almost had. But once he took him down, I was like, all right, this is it. This is how the fight's going to go. And I actually had Beneil Dariush in it because I think he's another person who's developed enough, who's breaking past the older people of the division. He's trying to make his name for himself. So I actually did have Beneil Dariush winning, which is weird because I never go against Tony. Yeah. In
the back of my mind, I had Beneil Dariush probably winning.
Yeah.
But I still wanted to hold out hope for Tony. I still wanted to say, okay, Tony's not that done. It's not done. Father Time didn't tap him on the shoulder. And he can still be because he is still a name. You saw the crowd on Saturday. You saw them.
They love him.
Yeah, and It's unfortunate now that he's getting his flowers now because now he's probably on the tail end of his career.
Well, he's going to start that. He's on the decline. He started the decline when his fight against Gaethje, and now is going down.
So it's okay. So you talked about the Charles Oliveira fight and how that was the blueprint. I think you go back to the Kevin Lee fight. I think if you go back to the Kevin Lee fight and you look at what Kevin Lee was able to do to Tony Ferguson,
take that in the first round.
I think if you remember, that was the start of where, like, okay, we've seen how Tony Ferguson can be taken down, he can be controlled, but he can fight off his back still.
Yeah,
right. That was the first instance. We was like, okay, I could see how the Khabib and Tony fight could have gone. Then you go to the Charles Oliveira fight, and that's when it was like, okay, that's interesting.
He picked him up. The fact that he can pick him up easily.
Yeah. And control him and can outmaneuver him on the ground. And then this fight was like, okay, it pretty much seals the deal that Khabib probably would have controlled him and probably would have had his way with Tony Ferguson. Or may have found a submission in the scrambles of Tony Ferguson as well. Also, Tony Ferguson, like, I watched last night on the feet, and even on the feet, Darius was giving it to him. Like, even on the feet, the head movement and stuff like that, like, as he's getting older, it's becoming more and more like he can't play those games of not protecting himself.
I'll say this. A lot of people underrate Beneil Dariush's stand-up. A lot of people thought when he got knocked out by Alex Hernandez that he was not as good. But I was like, just because he was a flash knockout, he got caught. Beneil Dariush comes from King's MMA. Oh, I agree, Loco. I think there's a lot of yes, there may be something wrong with him behind the scenes, but I also think, again, he's also towards the end of his career. Also, did you see Eddie Bravo in his corner last night? I didn't see him.
No, he changed his camp up. He wanted to get in Freddie Roach, and he put in some grapplers and stuff like that to help prepare him, which I think is good. I think having Freddie Roach in your corner, having a new
Freddie Roach can't hurt you. Freddie Roach can't hurt. Having him in the corner will never hurt you, in my opinion.
And Eddie Bravo has also come out and said that he's not a coach. Yeah. No. So like having Eddie Bravo out there is not. It wouldn't be ideal.
No, I don't think it's so much as having him coach him, so much as having him as an anchor. You know what I mean? Because they go back and forth, and he's a black belt under his system. So technically, just having someone there like Kamaru. Kamaru coaches. He helped corner him. I don't know if it was a coach. He helped coach Ngannou. Having someone there who you trust and things like that, it can make a difference on the day of the fight.
No, but I don't know if having Eddie Bravo and jiu-jitsu would have been a thing. I think it was more of Tony Ferguson is just getting up there, and I think Tony Ferguson has jiu-jitsu. He can fight off his back and everything like that, which we've seen. He threatens some stuff. But I think Tony Ferguson, if somebody has a wherewithal for it, Tony Ferguson can be neutralized on the ground because Tony Ferguson relies on the ground a lot. Like because you have such a comfortable with on the ground, that you're willing to sit sometimes on the ground as well. You're willing to try to throw up triangles.
To accept those positions, yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's where like Tony gets fucked up is the fact that you got grapplers and who control it, which is why the Khabib fight.
I'm telling you that wrestling it's a bad thing. Walter Bright said Tony fired Eddie Bravo after the Gaethje fight.
Really?
I know. I remember like either this one or I think it was this fight, like the media day. He had said that he had changed up his camp. I remember him talking about that. I remember him specifically saying he had fired some people. I didn't know if that meant he fired Eddie Bravo, but I know he said he fired people. So that could also be possible.
That is very interesting because I remember the Joe Rogan. I was watching the Joe Rogan episode. The Joe Rogan, I think it was maybe they was watching a live fight party or whatever. And I remember Joe Rogan talking to Eddie Bravo about the Tony Ferguson fight. And I believe Eddie Bravo was basically saying, "Hey, I'm not a cornerman. I don't.
That was after the Gaethje fight. Yeah, right. He was specifically on talking about, hey, he's like, I'm a liability, really.
Right. So was Eddie Bravo with him for the Charles Oliveira fight?
I don't believe so. I didn't see him there. So. I definitely didn't see him there.
Yeah, I don't. You may be right on that. He may have fired him, but I also maybe it may have been an amicable parting of the ways between the two. I think Eddie Bravo did say, "Hey, I'm not a cornerman. I don't belong there," stuff like that.
Yeah, I know. He told him to throw an Eminari, and it was like, what?
Yeah. So that is interesting, but nonetheless, I Beneil Dariush beats Tony Ferguson. What's next for Beneil Dariush? I don't know what the fuck he was talking about in his post conference.
He talked about getting his car from Elon Musk.
Yeah, I thought that was weird timing when you
he's
just had
never
the biggest win of your career.
He has never been a guy to call people out. That's the thing, though. So I expected something. I expected a non-call out, him to say something interesting. The one time he did say something about him building a school in Africa, I thought that was pretty cool. But other than that, all his post-fight interviews have never been about anything like that.
Well,
but anyway,
his last fight, he called out somebody in the top division. So he has. Beneil Dariush. In his last fight, he said, "I want somebody in the top. I feel disrespected. I want somebody in the top of the rankings." So he has. It's like I don't know. I don't know what he was on. Maybe just the adrenaline sometimes. But for Beneil Dariush, I honestly, man, I don't know where he goes from here. I don't.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. You have guys you're not going to give you can't. I don't know if they're going to give him Gaethje. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, we'll save Gaethje for the last part of this because I think probably next in line.
He could technically take Michael Chandler, but I don't see that happening.
Nope.
Connor's engaged with Poirier. The only people I could see are Rafael dos Anjos or Dan Hooker. That's it. Islam Makhachev, that could be an interesting fight. But now that you've moved up, if you're number 9 and you fought the number 5 guy, and Islam Makhachev is number 10, I'm not saying I wouldn't risk it, but realistically, you don't have to go back down.
Yeah, I think the thing with Beneil Dariush is that his performance was good. We've seen Charles Oliveira do it. Mm-hmm. We've seen we've seen Kevin Lee do it to a degree. So it's like we talk about Tony Ferguson's age. We talk about him retiring. It doesn't really shine the best light on Beneil Dariush, even though he won. We're talking more about Tony Ferguson or Beneil Dariush, which is kind of a
because we don't. No, well, we just don't have as much to say. He's in a weird position right now in this division.
He's not a name. He's not a name yet. He's not a name yet. Which you could say, okay, he could fight the top guy next. He's probably gonna have to fight somebody in rank number 10 or 7 or whatever below him in order to keep the name relevant. But Walter Bright, you say, guys, what do you think is next for Tony Ferguson? Loco, you say that Tony Ferguson should retire, right? I will say this: I don't want to wish retirement on Tony Ferguson yet. I think a conversation needs to be had. I say if Tony Ferguson is going to be, because he lost to number 12 guy, he's going to be dropped low in the rankings, right? Tony Ferguson, I don't want, if I'm just managing him, I wouldn't want him to fight the number 6 guy, number 7 guy, number 8 guy. Tony Ferguson is 37 years old, about to be 38. It's time for you to start planning out your next future, right? What I would
money fights.
What I would like, right? You have a guy that's been trying to make a comeback fight. You have a guy that is, he's older, we don't really know what he can do anymore. You're questioning his heart. You know where I'm going with this, Elijah, right?
Say it.
Why not do Nick Diaz versus Tony Ferguson at welterweight?
At welterweight.
We've never seen Tony Ferguson at welterweight in the UFC.
We have.
We
fought Katsunori Kakuno.
Oh, look at you.
Come on, man.
Look at you.
Oh, man. I mean, I could be wrong. Let me double check. Let me fact check myself. But I'm pretty sure him and Tony fought at welterweight at one point. Wait, let me double check.
You know what? The problem with Cowboy is they already fought already.
Yeah, and I don't want to see that fight.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that fight.
That is the problem. But a Nick Diaz versus Tony Ferguson fight is a fight we've never seen before. It's a fight where both fighters are questionable. We question where Tony Ferguson is at right now. We question where Nick Diaz is at right now. I think from a fighting standpoint, they match up really well. Tony Ferguson, he can strike.
Never mind, sorry. That was at lightweight.
Okay, so he never fought welterweight in the UFC.
I think in back in his tough days.
Okay, well,
that doesn't count.
No, yeah, I think he did fight. What like did he be like Ramsey?
Nijim?
Yeah, I think welterweight. Yeah. So you are right. You are right.
He has appeared at welterweight because I remember no one ever starts and no one at Tough really starts at that. You know what I'm saying? Like Tough was back then, everyone was juiced. So
yeah. So, yeah, but Nick Diaz, they're both questionable. Nick Diaz has good stand up, but also can fight off his back. Tony Ferguson has okay stand up, who also fight on his back. So like that fight makes sense. And then you also like they're both at that point in their careers where it's like, all right, that fight can make sense for both of them to fight each other now.
Technically everybody gets what they want. They both get a money. Nick gets a great introduction back into UFC. If Tony beats him, he gets a very big name, gets his name on the map again. Locos, I think he should retire because in his career took a lot of damage. I think he took the most damage he's ever taken was truly in that KG fight. I think that's the most damage Tony Ferguson has ever taken, in my opinion. He's been knocked around. He's taken a lot of damage, but I think that's the most I've ever seen him take in like an actual fight. Like because most of his fights on his way up to that 12 fight win streak, they were being finished within the first 2 rounds, or by the 3rd round, if the other opponent wasn't bloody. The only one I can remember that him being bloody was the Edson Barboza fight, I think. After that, everybody else was kind of like they hurt him a little bit, like they kind of teed off him against a little bit, but no one ever stunned him.
Anthony Pettis.
That was one. I said, yeah, he dropped him. Anthony Pettis dropped him.
Yeah, Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje.
The Barboza fight because I think they were both bleeding.
Venata.
He's dropped him. Also, maybe he has taken a lot of damage. When I think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like his fighting style. Yes, he can be slippery and he maneuvers. He has head movement, but there are points where like he takes shots to give shots because that's his style. He'll take to overwhelm you.
He pushes forward.
Exactly. So yeah, he has taken some damage in his career. The Nick Loco. The reason why I won't say retirement is because I don't know what Tony Ferguson like has like in the bank or like what he has saved or whatever, right? So like I would want Tony Ferguson to at least get one big name fight. He don't have to fight for a title. Like that could be beyond. In fact, you know what? If the BMF title is a thing, maybe the BMF title for Tony Ferguson. He can fit the category for BMF, right? But and that could put him away from being a ranked fighter and like fight somebody that he don't have to, fight somebody that's coming up in the ranks or a young lion, which they'll probably feed him to if he stays around long enough in his lightweight division.
The one fight I see them making, honestly, is Dos Anjos. I see Dos Anjos. I know, and I want to know why I hate that fight, because Dos Anjos at this time in his career may rip through him. After going through those kind of wars at welterweight and then kind of getting back on his feet at lightweight, I will say this: the first fight they fought before, and Tony won. I mean, it was a 5-round fight too. Tony versus Nate. Nah, it's probably gonna be Tony versus Nick if the UFC is smart about it. But the reason why
it has to be Tony versus Nick, sorry to cut you off, is because that fight makes so much sense now. And it's not to say like Nate, like that's, but Tony and Nick are like, they're up there in age. They're also somebody that people question. They're both like Nate Diaz. I still think, if he beats Leon Edwards, which can be a possibility, then we're he said, bro, RDA will use wrestling and maul Tony again the way. Let's see. Yeah. Like again, when they get to a certain point, like down to 2, right? Like when you get to a certain age, I don't want to see them fight in competitive fights, like against somebody that's trying to get a title fight. Let them fight legend names. Have like what kind of what Bellator does. Bellator does, the Fedor versus Quinn Rampage Jackson and stuff like that. Like have them right up into the sunset with big name fights, big payday, and then they could be gone. Sorry, Elijah. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, if I'm Dos Anjos and I want to get my name back out there, if I'm his camp, I'm saying, yo, sign me up for that motherfucker right there.
Agreed.
Sign me with him right there. I want him. I want my rematch right there because I'm going to dominate, and that's the thing. As for Tony Ferguson, take some time off. Obviously, we will always push for fighters to take time off to heal. I don't think he took a lot of damage in this fight, but it took enough to be like, damn, you have to really really think about some things. He is constantly losing. This is his third loss in a row. I think the Nick fight does make sense. So hopefully sometime around the fall or winter, they can get that to happen. As well, we talked about Benny Dariush. I don't know. I just don't know. I think we have to wait. We have to wait to see what happens with Conor and everybody else, in my opinion, to really see where he goes. Because the winner of Conor versus Poirier kind of determines who fights for the belt next. And then hopefully by that time, Gaethje is booked for a fight.
Great transition, because I'm glad you brought up Conor and Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
And you know what, Loco? If he doesn't have a YouTube channel already, he probably should have one.
Yeah.
I think Tony Ferguson is a unique character. I think at one point he's also a desk announcer.
I think he had a brief stint. I don't think it was something like concrete, like the right. Yeah, I think he definitely had like a brief. Like, I'm sure most fighters or like people who are at the top at some point do like one. At that point, they were testing people for analysts. So that was at that transition.
I would love maybe try Tony and Ferguson in the desk analysis. I hope I'm saying that name right. But like, pick his brain and stuff like that. I think he could be, that person that could demonstrate things and show things from his perspective.
I think Tony Ferguson, in my opinion, should do what Gilbert Melendez did or Dominic Cruz does, where they do breakdowns.
Tony Ferguson.
So man, Ian Tony, he flipped out on a plane and kicked off, attacked his wife and kills him about a great flood coming.
Well, he may have oh my God.
All is possible if you get hit in the head.
I don't know.
All is possible if you get hit in the head.
No comment. I don't know. It's
moving forward. We have Michael Chandler.
It is alarming though. It is alarming. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you, Flathead and Loco.
Michael Chandler lost to Dan Hooker. Well, he beat Dan Hooker, but he lost to Charles Oliveira last night by a referee TKO. And I want to say Michael Chandler started off the first 3 seconds just trying to get his reign in. Charles Oliveira threw these great leg kicks that kind of floored him. And then he blitzes Oliveira, and I thought Michael Chandler was going to become the lightweight champion.
I did at one point think that too.
I've already picked him too. I picked him for the fight, right?
Right. I had Oliveira.
You had Oliveira, and I was like, it's going to be hard to deal with Chandler, and I feel like he's getting he's found a good transition of trying how to pace himself in a fight. Like right. You can see in the first round, doubling up jab, right? Double up jab, looking for the right, trying to get in, slip in, head roll and body movement, right? Just trying to get in. It was a little hard. Then he gets in and ends up dropping him. And I was like, wow, Charles Oliveira is really down. He's dropped. And Charles Oliveira is tough. Comes in the second round. He tries to go in for this, this combination. Boom, Charles Oliveira catches him when he steps back with this beautiful timed left hook. And it just was like, wow, Oliveira is that good. He's so technical. And I think I wish the fight went longer, but I'm happy for Oliveira. That was a really good way to win. Michael Chandler gets the church music. Is that going to be a thing now for the show? The church music event of the week.
That have to be a thing. You know what? I have to have some church music around. I personally don't have church music on my
You can get one of them soundboards. That way you can like play like.
Yeah, you know what? Your mom needs some credit on the show as a producer. Or whatever. You have her on playing music on the background. Walter Bright, I'm going to come to that kind of point because that is a good point to bring up. Because the Conor and Dustin thing is interesting, which you're going to get to in a second. But you know what, Flat, you're right. Credit to Flat Politics. Flat Politics has been coming on this show, and we appreciate all you guys.
Oliveira's a bad dude.
Subscribe, like, share. We appreciate you guys. But Flat Politics specifically has been coming on this show and says Oliveira is a problem. He's going to be champion. And I wrote Flat Politics off. I said, no, you know what? Nah, he's not. No, he's not going to beat this guy. He's not going to beat that guy. He's not going to beat that guy. He's not going to beat Kevin Lee. And he beat him. He's beating these guys, and now he is the lightweight champion of the world. The interesting thing about this for me was that I said on Thursday I thought the range of Charles Oliveira was going to be a problem for Michael Chandler, and I thought he was going to be able to pick his shots, and if he wanted to go for a takedown, he could, and pick them apart. What I didn't know was that it was the range that was going to be a problem for Charles Oliveira, because as Charles Oliveira's in distance, Michael Chandler was able to come in on the inside and catch him a couple times with Charles Oliveira would fade back, which may be an issue. Which may be an issue for other fighters like Dustin Poirier or Justin Gaethje or whatever. But in this fight, Charles Oliveira would fade back and get caught with a lot of those shots and get caught on the flurries of Michael Chandler punches. It wasn't until the second round, which I think Michael Chandler even admitted it. You know what? I got more focused on getting the title than I didn't focus on what was happening. And Charles Oliveira changed his game plan up. Decided, no, I'm not gonna stay on the outside. I'm gonna go on the inside.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna take one to give one.
And that's where he got caught.
And lo and behold, Michael Chandler is loading up on these shots, and Charles Oliveira is staying in tight and just catching with a beautiful left hook.
Left hook.
Notice Michael Chandler's hands is down after he throws the left.
Yep.
When Charles Oliveira throws the left hook, where's his hand placement? His right hand, right here. Ready for the return, like that. Like
his technical ability. Again, I've watched him since that Frankie fight when he first fought Frankie, and he was like, I did well in that fight. He even though he lost, he's like, I did well. Like Frankie's great, but he was like, yo, this is not the end of it. Like I'm gonna be here for quite some time. I was like, okay, I respect that, and boom, lo and behold, he's here,
dude. His striking is night and day compared to what it was. It's night and day.
I want to say yes, but I think it's just there's something about this. There's something about the confidence he has walking around at 155 now. 145 he was skinny, but 155 he's walking around big.
Yeah, but
he's walking around like he's big. Like he's walking around like he is the big brother to all these guys.
Right.
But that's the crazy part.
Even the Kevin Lee fight, he would strike, but he was also like, I know my bread and butter. I'm gonna take it down to the ground and try to find submission stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like as he's progressing, he's starting to get more and more comfortable with striking, which is scary because he's already a great submission threat, a great grappler, and now he's getting more and more comfortable with, okay, I can strike with you for a minute, and if I have to go for a takedown or try to go for a scramble, I can, which is dangerous.
Yeah. He has 4 finishes in his last 5 fights. Right. And if we're looking at ever since he moved up to lightweight, I believe he has 1 decision in all of his lightweight appearances. Now
I want to bring this up, right? So
or maybe 2. Yeah. Sorry.
So before we we'll go on what's next. Well, this kind of ties into it because he didn't say explicitly, but he did say that he is looking at the Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor fight until he wins that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if either man faces Charles Oliveira next.
Why?
I'm gonna be very honest with you. Why? What is the value in fighting Charles Oliveira next?
Well, there's always value in fighting Charles Oliveira because Charles Oliveira has the belt. That's always going to be a factor, right? Now, it becomes whether or not you place a lot of. No, I'm going to tell you why. Because the person who has the belt can always argue for more money.
I love how you say. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you.
The person. Think of this is it. Like I don't want to say this is. It brings me to like I don't want to always make references to you WWE, but you remember when CM Punk had the infamous pipe bomb? He was like, I'm the guy with the belt. Why am I not getting all these things I want? Like, I'm the best, right? Like, I should be treated that way. And that's exactly how UFC has become sometimes, like in certain situations, right? Where you have people who don't have the belt who get treated better than people who have the belt. Now, a guy like Poirier and Conor having the belt amplifies their power. Anybody else, it doesn't help as much.
I can honestly see Conor or Dustin Poirier fighting a Tony Ferguson before I see a Charles Oliveira fight.
They'll fight. They're gonna fight. I think after that trilogy is done. That trilogy is done, I think they both get back to what matters the most, and that's the belt. Unless money fights are on the table. And when I say money fights or easy, I don't want to say easy fight because if either of them fights Tony right now, I feel like it would be easier for them than it would be when he was on the 12-fight win streak. I'll say this: it would take that money.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying by that? Like it could be an easier fight for them, so they'll take it?
It's not that it's an easier fight. It's who is Charles Oliveira? right?
champion. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No. Like, yes, he is the champion, and this is kind of where it comes full circle with the Tony Ferguson and the Khabib talk and Dustin Poirier and what's his name? No, Conor McGregor. Fuck, why can't I get that right? Like, it's an end of an era because, like, we used to talk about how the three guys, Tony Ferguson, Khabib, Conor.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna fight each other and stuff like that. That didn't happen. But like, those were the big names. Dustin Poirier became a big name after his fights with Khabib. Charles Oliveira is not there yet. And I think it's an indictment where Dustin Poirier was the true number one contender.
Mm-hmm.
What did Dustin Poirier say? Nah, let Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler fight. Then we'll see what's up after that. That tells me that Dustin Poirier doesn't really think about the title like that.
He doesn't think about the title like that because yes, he doesn't think about the title like that, but because the opportunity to fight Conor again approached. If Conor was not in the picture, do you honestly think he would have said the same thing? No, you don't.
No.
You don't.
Because
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
I'm gonna to answer that. No, but I think the Conor McGregor fight put Dustin Poirier on a different pedestal now.
And see, that's the thing, and I agree with you with that, and that's why I think if Poirier beats Conor in the third fight, and Poirier goes back to say, all right, let's get what I left behind for you scrap MFers, right? And Poirier wins.
See, you say that, but is that a money fight for Poirier? Can you go from making $1 million to go back to making whatever you were making before?
Well, remember, no, right?
You know what I'm saying?
However, like you said in the beginning of this podcast, you are getting paid a certain amount regardless. But because you've beaten Conor and you have all the star power now behind you, and now you're going to fight for the belt, you can angle yourself. You can put yourself in a better position for more money if you're doing X, Y, and Z for the company. That's just always how it's been. Now, I'm saying he can do that without the belt. That's the part that I'm agreeing with you, because technically, if you can make the argument without the belt, why need the belt to make these arguments? I agree. Exactly. I agree. But even going towards the belt and getting that this would only work if he got the belt, and that's why I'm saying it would. It matters. But I understand the point that you're making.
You know what I'm saying? There are fights that he can make at 170. You have that Nate fight that never happened, and there's still beef there, and there's still issues there with that Nate Diaz. What we know about Nate Diaz is that Nate Diaz is never out of style. You could call out Nate Diaz when he's 70 years old and still pop a rating and still.
What he say? I'm not surprised, motherfucker. I'm not surprised.
Exactly. Like, Nate Diaz is still a name. If he beats Leon, if you lose Leon Edwards, you'll still watch Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira right now after the Conor McGregor fight. I don't think that happens.
That's under the assumption that he wins.
Conor McGregor, if he beats Dustin Poirier, I don't know if that fight happens. Conor McGregor has been talking about going up 170 than fighting for the 155 fight. You know what I'm saying? Like
also, but we also know
differences in just
let me just say
value.
This. You're right, but we also know Conor low-key does what he wants.
Exactly.
Anybody. I'm not saying he won't fight. He also tweeted at Charles Oliveira saying, "You did a great job of becoming the 11th champion. I wonder who'll be the 12th." And I was like,
that was a nod to his alcohol. It wasn't a hey. I mean, it wasn't. It was more of a nod to the alcohol. Bro, I didn't see it as that.
Leon, I agree with. Okay, side note. Let's before we get on this tangent again, I agree with Flathead. Leon's gonna torch. I think Leon's gonna torch Nate. I think Leon is going to torch Nate too.
Bro. I don't know about that, man.
I do believe. I love Nate. But Leon, that's a bad mamma jamma right there. He can fight. But I'm sorry. Back to this.
So Flathead and Low Code are both saying that Leon Edwards is gonna beat Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I don't hate me, but I think Nick should not return. People love him. He is popular, but I don't think he will be good anymore. Just quick on this, Elijah. Maybe you're right, Low Code. Maybe you're right. maybe he doesn't need to return. However, that the UFC's job is to help promote fights, put on fights. Nick Diaz has been trying to get a fight for a long time now. He got suspended for a USADA violation,
For weed.
well, not just for weed, for his location and stuff like that when he wasn't an active fighter.
Mm-hmm.
So, do I think Nick Diaz should have a fight and UFC should right the wrongs and pay him for a big comeback fight? Yes. If Nick Diaz is healthy, if he's mentally in his better place, if he's physically in a better place, he looks better than he have in his entire career so far. It looks like he looks slimmed down. He looks ripped.
Jacked.
He looks jacked. I would love to see Nick Diaz get at least one. Give him at least one fight. Get him against a guy like Tony Ferguson or somebody that's a legend act, and then you can have him right up into the sunset. He don't have to be a title contender. He just fight somebody, one and done, get his money, and then that'll be it. And that could right the wrongs of what Nick Diaz. Again, he's been suspended for 5 years now. Off some bullshit, which you then said, okay, we're not gonna make marijuana a big thing anymore.
Yeah, it was like,
and they're the ones that made it pop. You know what I mean? So
it's crazy. 2-year suspension, fights GSP. It's just like, what? I don't know. Anywho, moving on. Yes, but to conclude this part, I think for Michael Chandler, who do you think is next?
For Michael Chandler, I think if Tony Ferguson wants to stay at 155, you can do Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chandler. They both coming off loss.
Both coming off loss. They had some words during the media day.
Michael Chandler is he's only had one fight in the UFC before losing to Charles Oliveira, so there is still that question about how he stacks up in the lightweight division. Tony Ferguson is somebody that has been having issues. You don't want to have Tony Ferguson go down the card, don't the rankings too much, so you can have that fight, and that makes sense.
Yeah. Switch me if we're playing.
I think if that's the one fight I can see for Michael Chandler. If not, an RDA fight makes sense. RDA fight makes sense. But again, I'm just going on record here. Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor is not fighting Charles Oliveira next. I want to make that clear. Justin Gaethje is going to fight Charles Oliveira next.
I would love that. That's a matchup I actually want.
That's the fight that's going to happen next.
Because I think it's going to take too long for the winner of the Poirier and Conor to decide what they want to do next, right? Because they're getting money for that fight, so you're going to want to enjoy that time.
Yes,
and that's why. Yes. And that's why. So I want them to fight Oliveira. And I said that before. I want them to fight Oliveira. I don't know if that fight happens next, so that's also the other thing. I want it to happen, but it may not realistically happen. In the world of MMA now,
negotiations and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
It's just not as easy. As a fight fan and someone who's dedicated to the sport, that fight should be made next, right? However, there are other things that happen, and those I don't want to say those guys exist out of the realm of the lightweight top 5, but they're on their own thing right now. So
And Justin Gaethje, enough time has passed that people may forget about the Khabib loss.
Yeah.
And he was the champion before Khabib.
Yes.
He was the interim champion.
Yes.
So it does make sense to do Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira from a fighting standpoint. That'd be exciting. People know who Justin Gaethje is, and if Charles Oliveira could beat Justin Gaethje, then that helped propel his name. Yeah. And I think the winner of that can then make the argument to then say, I want Dustin Poirier or Conor McGregor. I think one of the things we talk about that we don't talk about enough is that there's steps to these things, right? Somebody needs to fight this person in order to get that person. And
or to even put their name in the fish
conversation.
Tank.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Charles Oliveira has to fight Justin Gaethje in order to get Nate Diaz, to get Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier attention. You get what I'm saying? Because Conor McGregor could say, you know what, 170, Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal, Nate Diaz trilogy, whatever. I got options. Justin Poirier, Nate Diaz. I think there's a couple of fights out. Hey, maybe he can go to welterweight. Maybe that's in his plans. You
Yeah.
know, Conor McGregor. You know what? It's so crazy. Conor McGregor even talked about going to 145. Like again, go back to my point. Charles Oliveira, yes, it's a great win for him. Congratulations for him. It's been a long journey. Now he has to build up credit. Now he has to build up credit.
Let's solidify that you're not just the champion by,
Exactly. And let's keep the resume going. And then the Conor McGregor's and Dustin Poirier will have to take notice. Then they'll be called back to fight. Yeah. But there's too many options for both of them to then say, yeah, we're gonna go fight Charles Oliveira for maybe lesser money. When we could fight Kamaru Usman, who's been breaking 70,000 or whatever. We could go to Nate Diaz, who knows get a paycheck. We go to Nick Diaz, go get a paycheck. We go to there's too many options on their side to want to say we're gonna go back to Charles Oliveira. That's what I'm saying.
I agree. All right. Well, overall, what are we giving this card?
Everybody in the chat, please give me your grade for this card.
For those who don't know, we tend to give the card on a letter scale, obviously, or a letter grade based on the matchups, the main event, co-main event, how we thought the card played out. The fans being there definitely always adds for us. I'm gonna go B+. I'm gonna go B+. I'd be generous in giving it A-, C+. Wow, damn, Loco is harsh.
He said B- or C+.
I'm gonna go B+.
I'm not too Loco may have a point there. Loco, I'll go back.
I'll go B+. I'm gonna go B+ because the main event. Say what you want. That first round was like, oh shit, Michael Chandler might be dominating. Then he gets knocked out within the first minutes of the second round. I was like, oh shit, wow, right? And then there was some really good. There was some really good fights. Bontorin again. Jacare Souza. Jacare Souza got his Edson Barboza versus Shane Burgos was fight of the night. But Edson Barboza, everyone knows you pressure him and get him into throw these heavy shots, and he did not. The one thing I'm liking at Edson Barboza's evolution is that he is not breaking mentally. Yeah. Or maybe he hasn't been pushed to that point yet. Then you also have, we have the Shane Burgos fight was phenomenal in my opinion. Yeah. Shane Burgos really stepped it up in the second round. And I had a 1-1 going into the third. That was a great fight. Bontorin had a great fight against Matt Schnell on late notice, right? And Deandre Muniz broke Jacare Souza's arm.
Yes, he did.
Do you understand what that means? You broke that. What?
Right.
What?
And nobody's been able to submit Jacare up until that point.
In MMA,
you know what I mean? So
this is a guy whose arm was physically his arm was broken, and he continued a jiu-jitsu match.
Exactly,
and won.
Barboza. So the quick thing about Barboza, right? Where does Barboza go from here? He beat Shane Burgos. It was a great fight. It was a great test for Barboza at 145. Does Barboza get somebody in the top 5?
I'm gonna look up the top 5 and see who I want him matched against. I could possibly see him.
He has a big name for that 145 division.
I'm going to say this. I don't see him fighting. Chan Sung Young is going to be fighting Dan Ige soon. Calvin Kattar is still on concussion protocol, so that would be a good fight for his return. Josh Emmett would be a great fight for his return. And you know who I would love, because I know this fight would be fireworks? Yaya Rodriguez versus Edson Barboza.
Well, nobody knows where Yaya Rodriguez is at right now.
Just say his name 3 times and he'll appear.
Edson Barboza is ranked number 13. He probably ranked number 10 or 9.
Let me see. Because he beat Burgos. He'll be 9. He'll be 9 most likely.
Honestly,
Arnold Allen. I mean, Calvin Kattar. He's got some good people he could fight. But if you don't want to keep giving him fights because he's towards the end of his career, you could probably have him fight a guy like Holloway if you really want to push it. It'd be out of this world, but. Josh Emmett, there's fights he could make, but if you want to get him to the belt as close as possible, as quick as possible.
You know what? I actually like the name you just threw out there. I think
Holloway.
Yeah, I think Holloway Barboza at 145. You're gonna have Brian Ortega versus Alexander Volkanovski. I think Barboza is one of those categories where, he's such a big name in a division that he could get a title fight or get shot up that fast. I think Barboza versus Max Holloway is an amazing ABC UFC Fight Night card, and that could determine the number one contender.
The issue is with that fight, though, if Holloway is going the way he is currently going, and he batters Barboza, I don't see Barboza ever getting a title shot again. Like,
which could be the case. Which could be the case,
Yeah.
but like
that's a fight.
You gotta do that fight now. Like Barboza has so much stock in his name, and Max Holloway's coming up the win over Cavalcator. That yes, you can do that fight. I think Barboza, if he loses, he could go down a pike a little bit. But again, Max, that's not an easy fight for Max Holloway either.
Nope.
That's a tough
leg
fight.
kick. If he can get past those leg kicks, in my opinion, he beats Volkanovski. I think he finishes Volkanovski. If Volkanovski beats Ortega, which I don't know, because that's a hard fight for Volkanovski, because Ortega, he is over here like fighting like a spider monkey. I don't know what is going on. He's nasty now.
Yeah.
He got like some people don't get better off losses. He did.
Apparently, there was a brawl during a tough season. They taped it, and apparently there's a tiff, if you will, between Brian Ortega.
A tiff on tough
between Brian Ortega and Volkanovski, which is interesting. But yeah, Barboza versus Holloway, that's the fight to make. Barboza's
not getting any younger.
Yeah,
he's almost 36, maybe 35.
Yeah, give him the Holloway. Let's put him in a big fight. Let's put him on ABC, UFC Fight Night. That'd be brilliant. My rating. I think I'm staying somewhere where Load Code is at and where Flat Politics is at.
The Jacare is on another level. I saw the arm break. I was like, fuck, that broke.
I think this card is a B+. And I think the reason why I can't, I'm willing to give it a B+ just because you said some fight nights are B pluses and stuff like that. So that's on brand. Is this fight card worth $69.99?
Hell no.
No. Flathead Politics, like you would agree. Local, I think you would agree. This shit was not worth $69.99, but we paid it because we're fans. But the next fight card is looking like a legendary A+ classic already with Israel Adesanya, Marvin Vettori, Brandon Figueiredo, Davis Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno, Nate Diaz, Leon Edwards. You have a phenomenal undercard below that. Like that's a classic already. Like this fight, stacked. This one surprised people, and it delivered in certain aspects. But let's keep it a bean. It's like
it wasn't worth $70. I'm sorry.
No,
I saw it. I was like, damn. I looked at it like, fuck.
No, it wasn't. It was a good card. It was entertaining, but the Barboza Shane Burgos fight, great. The Edson Barboza, the Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler fight was a great. Everything in between that was okay. Matt Schnell versus help me out. That fight was good. The Chukagian versus Arajo. If I'm saying her name right, like you could watch those. You can watch those later. You can watch highlights and pretty much get just the fight.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I think a solid B+, maybe borderline B, is a good rating for this card.
Yeah.
Loco, will you be? I can see y'all going far. Y'all person good. So on Thursday,
you'll have to hear it.
On Thursdays, I'm gonna work on a specific time for you guys so we can come in and chat it up and everything like that. So on Thursdays, though, I'm gonna do a midweek wrap up, just discussing UFC news and stuff like that. It breaks during the week. On Saturday, I'm going to be doing recaps for PFL and Bellator, which you guys can join in. Again, I have an interview coming out. If not today, tomorrow, with a fighter on the Bellator card, Sean Felton Jr. He's making his Bellator debut. Good story to hear about him, a teacher's aide, a part-time teacher's aide that is, helping kids during the daytime and training and fighting, in his part-time. And it's going to be making his big Bellator debut on Saturday against Aviv Gonzalez, who Bellator is pushing as this next jiu-jitsu ace. So we'll see if he can, stop the hype train there. And I'm working on other interviews as well. I'm trying to see, somebody that, I try to get people that people don't maybe not heard about, or is like has an interesting story, which I think you guys want to hear.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll definitely. Let me see something. Toby Green says if Conor beats Dustin, they literally everything posts just more reputation.
Has made his rep. Yeah.
Yeah. Quick thing, Elijah. Who do you have? Dustin Poirier or Conor McGregor? If you could,
I'm gonna go Dustin. I'm gonna go Dustin right now. I'm gonna go Dustin is because I love Dustin, and you know how I feel about Dustin. And you know how I feel about Conor, but I'm right. When Dustin went to lightweight, I knew it. He's that guy. So I'm gonna go with Dustin again. You?
I'm gonna be controversial. I'm gonna go Conor McGregor because I think it's one of those things where how does Conor McGregor do in rematches, right? He's coming off a loss. He's coming off a loss. How did he do in rematch? How did he break it down? How does this coach look at the things that went wrong? And if I know history, if I know Conor, he seems very cerebral when it comes to breaking down his losses and kind of come back from it.
I'll say this, yes, and I think Conor in the Nate Diaz second fight Conor was a lot better, but that fight was still very close. Yeah, that fight was a lot closer than people remember it to be, and I rewatched it again for the 7th time, and I was like, "Damn!"
So, see, hold on, look, how do you have my back on this, but don't have my back on Nate Diaz?
Easy, Leon. Did you see Leon? Leon's a beast, bro.
How do you have my back on one another?
Leon.
Do not sleep on Nate Diaz. Do not sleep.
We're not sleeping on him, but it's okay. Leon Edwards is a beast, bro. He said, "I'm a Conor fan when my head's getting away." Oh my god!
Fair enough, man.
Anywho,
I with T. Dillashaw, so it's all right.
Dillashaw is one of the greatest bantamweights of all time.
Oh my god!
I can't wait for him to come back and win.
Here's the Cejudo says, "Hold up."
Listen,
starts TJ at flyweight, then comes up, take his belt.
I'm ready for that. I want to see that. Nate gets smoked. Even Toby Green.
Hey, Toby, the first time seeing it, I'm glad to see you, man. So, again, subscribe, share, like. We appreciate you guys. We definitely do this every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Toby, don't sleep on Nate.
No one's sleeping on Nate, but
yes, you are.
No, the thing is, I think you just gotta understand. Like the fight with Masvidal, Leon's a little bit more technical. He's a lot more technical than Masvidal. So he's not. And Leon's 6'1". Like they're equal almost in height. Like it's not gonna be a good day for your boy. It's not. I'm not saying he can't win. I'm just telling you who I got.
Maybe we should do so. UFC 263 is on June 12th. Maybe we'll do like a call-in or something like that. Maybe if you guys if I can get you guys emails before the fight or before the show, I'll have you guys come in and chat up during certain segments of the show we're gonna do and get your thoughts on it. Because if Nate Diaz goes out there and runs through, and I say this with
if Nate Diaz runs through Leon.
Hold on.
What the fuck did you just say?
Let me clarify. Perhaps.
I honestly would love to smoke whatever he's smoking, gentlemen.
Perhaps. Listen, I'm still sleepy, but perhaps Leon Edwards has some difficulties with Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz gets the win. I want to hear you guys' voices. I want to see you guys' faces. I want to see your face, Elijah. I want to see your face, Flathead.
I have never, if I was wrong, I always tell you, I always say, damn, I didn't see that happening, right? Like, I admit to what it is. But let me tell you something. Leon's a southpaw. Leon's stronger. Leon's bigger. He's mean. He mixes in striking and wrestling well. The only thing I can see is that Leon gets tired after trying to pummel him for 2 straight rounds, and Nate Diaz will not go away. That's the only way I see Nate Diaz winning. That is the only.
You know what, Toby? I like it. All right. Listen, I'm gonna hold y'all to the fire. And
if we're right, I would love for you to say thank you for showing me how wrong I am. That's all I want to hear you say.
You know what? You personally can fuck off.
Exactly. That would eat you alive. You're terrible. You're terrible.
All right, guys. It's been fun. My name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones, man. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Flathead, Loco, Toby Green, and who was the other gentleman who joined us?
Walter Bright as well. Walter Bright. Appreciate you guys. Again, share, subscribe, like. I'll be on Thursday. Interviews coming, if not later today, Monday with Sean Felton Jr. Saturday, I think UFC Bellator's 259 recap, and then Sunday we'll be back with the Rob Font and Garbrandt. Rob Font may end Garbrandt. I'm not so sure about that.
I'm gonna go Garbrandt.
I know you will. I
I'm gonna go Garbrandt.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either.
All right, man.
All
Later.
right.
Bye.
Have a good Sunday.